Good morning everyone, and welcome back to the Shadow Clan Den. ShadowRaven here, and today I'm going to be doing my top 10 Dragon type Pokemon. Now this is actually one of my favorite types of all time. It is actually one that I fell in love with just right off the bat. Part of it is because I was born in the year of the dragon, so for me it's kind of a significance just based on that, but at the same time I love dragons in general. Sometimes I wish they were real. But let's jump right into this list because this is going to be fun. Number 10 is Kingdra. Now, this particular Pokemon I have never used, unfortunately. I do plan on raising one, as with all the other Pokemon that I usually put on these lists that I haven't raised. I like Kingdra overall, mainly for its appearance. It's actually got some really good stats from overall. It's a pretty balanced Pokemon, which is really nice to have. I like its overall appearance. I think Horsey is absolutely adorable. I think Seadra is really badass, and I think Kingdra takes both of those components and blends them beautifully for a majestic Pokemon that can kick your butt. Number 9 is one that I have raised. Haven't raised it in quite some time, but I have raised it. Number 9 is Ulterior. I first raised this one way back in the original Sapphire on the Game Boy Advance. I really liked this one. I mean, I thought Swablu was cute, and because of that, I was kind of iffy on raising it, but I figured, might as well give it a shot. It evolved into a dragon, and I was like, what the heck? Okay, it made no sense to me, but I was like, well, I'm just going to roll with it. I rolled with it, and Ulterior became a pretty common Pokemon on many of my Sapphire teams. I have not raised it in the remakes. I will say that much. I have not raised it yet in the remakes. But it's because I'm still kind of in that nostalgia thing, so I'm still raising a lot of the other Pokemon that I haven't raised since the original versions came out. So I'm still kind of in that process of going through the list. It's like, okay, so I know I like this one, so I know I like this one, going back and forth, plus getting into the competitive battling and such. So I'm kind of messing around with it for now, but I will eventually catch a Swablu and raise it again. Number 8 is Garchomp. Now this one I have raised in Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum. It was actually pretty decent, considering that I'm not usually too fond of physical attackers in general. Garchomp is actually, in my opinion, was well worth my time. It took a little bit to actually get it fully evolved, but in the end, it was worth it. The dual typing if you're not careful and such, it kind of can screw you over just a little bit, but for the most part, I usually didn't have too much of an issue. And even with not switching out, because I am prone to not switching out frequently, I'm actually still kind of getting used to the whole switching in, switching out concept. But for me, even when I wasn't switching out and such, Garchomp usually could hold his own, even against type advantages and such. So he's actually a pretty nice Pokemon to have. That, and he just looks badass. And I'm not putting his Mega form on here. I'm going with just regulars. I'm not putting any Megas on here. It's not because I don't like the Megas. It's just because I'm trying to go for just the base Pokemon that is not Mega. I like Megas, but if I was going to do a Mega, if I'm going to put a Mega on a list, it is going to be on a list of all Megas. That's just my opinion. That's just how I'm going to be doing these lists. I think Shadowbang might be the same, but I'm not 100% sure on that. He does his list his way. Number 7 is Dragonite. Yes, I know he is the original dragon, and I really do like him. I've raised him a couple of times. But he's number 7, mainly because he's one of those Pokemon that I like Dragonite, but I actually prefer Dragonair. I put Dragonite on the list because it's the fully evolved form. For the most part, I usually stop at Dragonair. Every now and then I'll let it evolve, and I still love it. Don't get me wrong, I really do love Dragonite. I just like Dragonair a little bit more. But, all things considered, for being the original dragon, Dragonite's kind of the original dragon badass. So, and I guess there is kind of a nostalgia factor there too. but that's why Dragonite made it on the list instead of Dragonair. It's just because Dragonite was the original dragon. I know Dratini and Dragonair were also dragons, but Dragonite was the one that was actually featured in the show. Lance had 3 of them in the games. And I gotta say, Dragonite itself is really freaking cute. Plus, Dragonite also made it into the first Pokemon movie, which is still one of my favorite movies to date. Number 6 is Haxorus. Now, for Gen 5, it wasn't my least favorite generation, but it wasn't my favorite either. Still kind of in the neutral zone. But for Dragon-wise, Haxorus was by far superior to Druddigon. I caught a Druddigon, and I raised it for maybe 4 or 5 levels, and I couldn't get over how I just couldn't get past Druddigon's appearance. That was the main killer on that one for me. Haxorus, on the other hand, has an absolutely adorable first stage. Axew is one of the cutest Pokemon I've ever seen. Fracture isn't really all that bad, and Haxorus is pretty much boss looking. I like its original form. I love its shiny form. Oh my goodness. Gorgeous, gorgeous. And then Haxorus itself is pretty fairly balanced. It's a little bit top heavy on the physical attack, which once again is usually my less preferred. I'm usually more of a special attacker. But all things considered, even then, that really wasn't enough to drop Haxorus any lower, and I love its overall appearance. Plus, I just think it's fun to use. And it's also a pretty tough customer. It's not something I like facing off against very often either, even if I have a Sylveon. Number 5, I don't even really know why I raised one of these. Maybe just because I thought the first stage was kind of funny looking, and I thought it was kind of cute, and I wanted to see where it was going to go. Number 5 is Goodra. Now, this thing is more along the lines of my type of Pokemon. It's more of a special attacker, but it is so funny looking. I mean, I think that's mainly the reason that I really raised one in the first place, is just because its appearance was so amusing that I just had to find out what the heck, it's like, okay, so if it's kind of silly looking, usually it's pretty powerful, is kind of one of the sayings that we kind of go by, especially when it comes to Pokemon. The less physically appealing it is, usually the stronger. It's usually stronger than it looks. And Goodra is definitely one of those. I liked it. I've only raised it once. I plan on raising it again just because it was kind of fun. It is definitely, it's definitely one of the weirdest looking Pokemon though, I have to say. Though I will say its ability Sap Sipper is a good ability. I really liked that, and it's actually quite useful, especially in, what is his name? Ramos's gym. Very handy. Very, very handy. And I just like Goodra. I mean, anyway, it's still kind of silly looking, but dang it, it's worth the effort to put in. It's actually a really good Pokemon, and it's pretty bulky too. I mean, physically defensive, not so much, but it is pretty bulky, especially for on the special side. Definitely worth the effort to raise. I actually recommend one. Number 4 is Dragalge. Now, for me, the main winner with this one was the fact that it is a dragon and it is a poison type. So yes, its dragon moves are completely ineffective on fairy types, but its poison moves are super effective. So basically, it counteracts its own fairy weakness by having that poison typing. I absolutely love that. Plus the fact that it is also based on a leafy sea dragon, which is one of my favorite creatures. I love the leafy sea dragon. It is gorgeous. The fact that Dragalge looks almost like one, it's freaking amazing. It's pretty darn bulky. It's very specially defensive. Its base special defense is 123. Its special attack is pretty good at 97. Its speed, well, you can't win on everything. I mean, its speed is not very good. Its base speed is 44, and I'm going by base numbers on these. But for the most part, for a special attacker that you can actually use against fairy types, Dragalge is definitely a win for a dragon type. I mean, it's a lot of fun to raise. It really is. Plus, I'll admit, I think it's cute. I mean, it may not have that cuteness factor, and technically for most people it doesn't. Most people would say it's probably badass. I think it's cute, because I'm weird like that. Number 3, Flygon. This one I did not raise in the original versions. I think it's just because Trapinch to me wasn't really all that appealing until I found out that it evolved into a dragon. Once I got that little mess out of the way and such, I raised one. And then I raised one again. And I raised it again. And I think I have raised Flygon 3 or 4 times since the original versions came out. I absolutely love Flygon. First of all, I think it's absolutely gorgeous. I think it is a beautiful Pokemon. It looks like a perfect blend of a bug and a dragon. Yes, I know it is a ground dragon. I personally think that it should have been a bug dragon because those eyes are so beautiful and large like an insect's. Plus, it's also in Jirachi's Wish. I think that's the name of the movie. I will make sure to double check on that. But it's also in the Jirachi movie, which I really appreciate because I really think that in some of the Pokemon movies, there are some Pokemon that they could have used, but they didn't. The fact that they used Flygon in that movie, I thought it was amazing, and I loved it, and it wasn't a bad guy. I hate it when my favorite Pokemon are bad guys. I understand it sometimes, doesn't necessarily mean I like it. But Flygon is well worth it if you want to try one out. I definitely recommend it. It is more of a physical attacker, so if that's your forte, then have at it. It's actually pretty fast. It's got a base speed of 100. HP could use a little bit of help there, but then again, so can many of these other ones. But it is well worth giving it a shot. It is a lot of fun to use, and I just love the way it looks. I really do. And it's got a pretty decent moveset too. So if you're really into competitive battling, might not be a bad option. I mean, especially since it can learn Earthquake after all. So, and it has Levitate, so it can't get hit by them. At least if I remember correctly. Once again, I will check on that. Number 2 is fairly new, like some of the other ones on this list, but this one was by far my favorite, and it was actually the last one of the 3 that I raised. Number 2 is Noivern. All right, I love bats. I love me my bats. My bats are absolutely gorgeous. Can't get enough of them. When I saw that there was a bat dragon, there was no question. I mean, there was absolutely no question that I was going to raise one. And Noibat is freaking adorable as all get out. I mean, it is so freaking cute with the huge ears and the itty-bitty wings. Yeah, and then it evolves into Noivern, which has the huge wings, the huge ears, that cute little bat-like face. Oh my gosh, I think I squealed the first time when it actually evolved. I was so ecstatic. I just think it is so... even for a fully evolved Pokemon, it's huge, it's gorgeous, it's cute, it's badass. I, honest to God, really want one in real life. I think it's complete insanity to want one in real life, but I want one in real life. It is so totally impractical for real life application, but I don't care. It is a little bit more of a special attacker, so once again, it is right up my alley. And interesting fact, and I actually learned this from Cerebi, Noivern is the fastest dragon with the exception of Mega Sceptile with a base speed of 123. Yes, its base speed is higher than that of Mega Rayquaza's. Mega Rayquaza's top speed is 115. I was completely floored when I saw that, and I was like, are you serious? It is the fastest when we're talking about base speed here, remember. Noivern is the fastest dragon-type Pokemon with the exception of Mega Sceptile. Its base speed is 123. Mega Sceptile's is 145. Mega Rayquaza's is 115. I was thoroughly impressed. I can't wait to raise one again, because I know for a fact that I will. It's just the question of which version am I going to raise it in, because I love raising Pokemon in Auras, and I love raising Pokemon in X and Y. So I've actually been just randomly, whenever I restart one, I just randomly pick Pokemon for the most part. So Noivern is going to be in one of the next couple of teams that I'm going to be doing, and I cannot wait. But Noivern, despite the fact of how much I love this Pokemon, is still only number 2. Number 1 is a Pokemon that I fell in love with, even though I wasn't really too fond of how long it took second stage to get to third stage, but it was so worth it. Number 1 is Salamence. I fell in love with Salamence during that when third gen first came out. I had so much fun with it. I have still raised it 3 or 4 times since the newer versions came out. I love Salamence to the point where it's almost ridiculous. Yes, it is a physical attacker. It is quite fast. It's got a pretty decent special attack at 110. Its regular attack is 135. Its speed is 100. HP is 95, and its defenses are balanced at 80. So either way, you could have either a physical attacker or a balanced defender if you really want. If you wanted a dragon to be your defensive Pokemon on your team, but for me, always been a physical attacker. It's always got it always has a decent moveset for me, and I absolutely love Salamence. There's not really much more I can say aside from the fact that I absolutely love it. It's not based on stats or anything. Part of it is based on its overall appearance. I love the way it looks. And because I love the way it looks so much, I was overly disappointed when the Mega Form came out. I was hoping that they would really do something. I was hoping that they would go in a different direction from what they did. They take my favorite dragon, and I was hoping that they would make him more of a badass dragon and not turn him into a dragon that's in the shape of a plane. When I first saw Mega Salamence, it reminded me way too much of the Blue Eyes White Jet. I'm sorry, that is an actual plane in another show. I did not want one of my Pokemon to remind me of that, especially since, even though I understand where the creator on that of that particular item is coming from, I still don't really like him that much. I still think he's kind of a butthead. But either way, Salamence's Mega Form, in my opinion, was very disappointing, but the overall Pokemon without the Mega, totally worth it. It's, sure, its speed goes up and its Mega Form, but either way, as I said, not trying to focus on Mega Forms here. Ignore that last whatever. But Salamence is definitely a Pokemon worth raising. It is so much fun to use, and I really don't know what to say, actually. When it comes to Salamence, I'm kind of at a loss for words. Because it is just, to me, it's just that impressive. And it is just so much fun. But today, that was my top 10 dragons list. If you liked it, please let me know just by clicking that little thumbs up. If you didn't like it, click the thumbs down and I'll understand. Our opinions are different. They will probably never be the same, but this is okay. That's what makes us all human. But, leave a like or a dislike. Comment, share, subscribe, all of that wonderful stuff, and have a wonderful day. Happy hunting!